your phone with you, Jerry?
I do.
Can you just check and make sure we're live on YouTube?
How do you do that?
Yeah. Actually, maybe I can do it.
No. Don't mess with your phone. I got it.
There is a way that I could.
No, I got it.
I just want to make sure it's on. We're live.
Hey. Hi there.
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Hey, good, thank you.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi.
Oh, just like Steve, let's just make a picture.
Is it okay? Oh, accident on the
Oh, my phone's sitting out here.
Okay.
Okay, we got Jeff and Brian on,
Oh, good.
and we're streaming, I believe, right? Jerry?
We are streaming.
Okay.
Good.
I don't know if this is the
The whole
only material.
2
I'll grab
minutes
it.
to go.
I shouldn't have
What
left.
was-
Did you hear this come in? I
Okay,
guess
that's
Kyle called or text.
What happened? Oh, no, I
But
didn't.
I left my phone out here.
I did not. It wasn't when I was in.
What's that? 2 minutes.
John forgot his agenda. Where do you have the keys?
Oh, do we have another chair?
Yeah.
We're gonna need, can you move over, Stephen, because
is
we're gonna
James
need
coming?
chair.
I can move, yeah.
Another chair.
Colleen, do you know if James is
Sorry.
coming?
I thought so.
Grab his agenda.
What do you need?
Agendas, they got locked into my office.
Oh, there's some up on the podium.
Oh, there's
Well, the packet.
the backup.
Oh, you need
Backup.
some.
I'll grab it.
We're sharing a mic. You okay with that?
Just at 5 minutes.
We don't.
Sorry, Danielle. I shouldn't have left my phone out here.
It's all right. As I was driving down 55,
Will you
I
call for
couldn't leave a
directions?
voicemail because it was going in and out.
Oh, yeah.
No. I'm
Oh,
not-
yeah, we lose a lot. 55, an old 55.
I was telling Christine I'm familiar with the area. My mom used to have a horse farm on the reservoir.
Oh, okay.
So it's 7 o'clock?
Ooh, okay. All right. Welcome to the September 12th Pawling Joint Sewer Commission meeting. If you can please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Sorry, Jerry. Sorry. We're a little snug here tonight. I whipped around.
It's a work in progress.
Yes, one of the first meetings up here, we had, what, one village meeting here and a planning board meeting here?
Yeah.
All right. Hopefully everyone had a chance to read the minutes, from August. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, and approve the treasurer's report as presented. Can I get a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve payment of the August vouchers as presented and prepaid vouchers in the amount of $87,057.35.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Someone's using an animation? Probably Jeff. So I'll make a motion to transfer $87,057.35 from the O&M account to the checking account in order to pay the August vouchers.
I'll make that motion. Did you make the motion?
I made a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I think we're sharing those, so back that up a little. All right, budget modification. I am going to make the motion to transfer $333.90 from the contingency line A19904 to administration line 13042.4 to cover the cost of Municipal Solutions financial review. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, Jeff, I understand you're on the phone,
Yes. Yep.
so are you ready to walk us through? I believe you had sent us, a couple of,
Yeah, number 60 is the one that we're really focusing on, 60.24.
okay. What's this one now? Isn't this him too?
It is,
Oh,
but
okay.
that's the older.
Okay, all right, sorry. Slowly getting with the program here. So Jeff, do you wanna walk us through, so this is your final,
Right.
financial,
The final report.
yep,
And I think what we are trying to do as a result of this report would be to come up with a fund balance policy that future boards could use as a guide as they go forward, as far as how much unappropriated fund balance the commission would want to carry as a minimum amount, and then what a maximum amount would be. And for those years that it goes over the maximum amount, then they would want to look at, is there the need to fund reserve funds for repair and replacement of existing facilities, and do have money available to do some preliminary engineering studies, preliminary environmental, for future projects that may be able to be loan and grant funded down the road. So what I attempted to do is, first of all, point out that the commission has been losing fund balance every year. Revenues have been exceeding expenditures. There was one year where in 2023 there was that was a year where revenues were a bit more than expenditures, but the trend is losing, and it looks like you're probably going to be losing anywhere from $100,000 to $115,000 a year without some sort of a rate increase. That brings in in order to determine what that rate increase should be, we looked at what the fund balance levels are now, and trying to come up with a fund balance policy, which is Exhibit B, that sample fund balance policy. And what you can see is, when you look at cash flow, there is the need to carry some pretty significant fund balances, because when the debt service has to be paid, and because of the lulls between when you put out sewer billings and when they're collected, it's kind of a little bit of a roller coaster as far as when funds are available, what months. So some months you're in great shape, other months it gets quite severe, that you're really expenditures exceed revenues by quite a bit. And that month, there's a couple months. October is one where we're about 100,000 in the hole, but the big one is in May, when that bond payment is made, and it's about 329,000 in the hole. So there is the need to maintain some pretty significant fund balance in order to, just for cash flow purposes. And so I think what I'd like to point out is, on page 2, under best practices for general fund reserves, you'll see that when you look at like the Government Finance Officers Association, they just updated its best practices on unreserved general fund balances to recommend that general purpose governments maintain at a minimum an unrestricted general fund balance of no less than 2 months of regular general fund operating revenues or regular general fund operating expenditures. This amounts to 16.7% of either general fund operating revenues or regular general fund operating expenditures. So what that would say, my recommendation is that we use the 16.7% as the floor of available fund balance. The GFOA cautions that some governments may require much larger reserves based on their particular financial situation. Furthermore, a government's particular situation often may require a level of unrestricted fund balance significantly in excess of this recommended minimum level. And that's what we're seeing here because of the cash flow needs. This is the case with the Pawling Joint Sewer Commission, where debt service payments during the month of May and the end of the year payments made in December, months when revenues are low and expenses are higher than normal months. And if you look at the detailed cash flow summary, and I do see, I apologize, in the report, I do see some of the headers in that cash flow have been cut off. And I'll send Christine a Excel copy of that they could share with you. That'll show the headers too. But basically, the numbers we're looking at are the negatives at the end of each, positives or negatives at the end of each month. The month of May, when sewer debt payments are due, results in a deficit of $329,079, and December's deficit is $116,188, both significant amounts. Included in the exhibit is a historical revenue and expenditure and fund balance summary for the years 2020 to 24 through October, estimated through October for 24. The PJSC board this is a suggested board position, and it would say, you know, the reason that you're coming up with your fund balance policy is the PJSC board strongly supports the adoption of a formal fund balance policy and maintaining general operating fund revenues reserves to at least the GFOA minimum recommended level of 6.7%, with a recommended maximum level of 35% of prior year expenses. The PJSC supports the reasonable use of reserves to prevent severe service cuts, sewer rate hikes, or to address unforeseen contingency situations. The reason I came up with 35% is when we sit down with the Moody's and Standard & Poor's bond rating for bond issues, when we sit down with the analysts, one of the major issues they focus on is available fund balances and reserves. So, if you get a fund balance in the 30-some% range, that will tend to have a favorable impact on your bond rating. So I would, recommend that we stay well above the 16.7. But if you'll have that flexibility in a bad year or when unforeseen expenses come up, which seems to happen especially with the transmission and distribution system. We seem to have a lot of expenditures that we kind of creep up unexpectedly during the year. So if you have a strong fund balance, you are able to absorb those shocks to the system. And once you start getting down to the 16.7% level, then you would figure out ways to try to bring it back. On top of that, we would want to set up dedicated capital reserves. I would recommend we do two, one for the wastewater treatment plant and one for the transmission distribution system itself, the collection system and pumping and the rest. Have two reserves. Over in your capital project fund, I believe after we get the accounting done, which is going to start like this month, we're going to be able to get better accounting. And I think some of the stuff that's over in the capital fund will actually be brought over to the general fund, and they'll actually be reserves. So we'll have some established reserves, especially for the wastewater treatment plant, where we'll have reserves for those expenses that I guess, from what I'm understanding, the plant may need funds to make improvements to some of the equipment that was installed and that sort of thing.
Yes, correct.
So that's where I came up with the recommendation for 16.7. That's what the industry is recommending. Government finance officers is like the most respected in the nation. That's what they recommend as a minimum. And because of the cash flow needs, and also because building up the unappropriated fund balance will help strengthen your financial position, that's where I came up with the upper number. So it gives you flexibility, puts you in a very good spot. We are in that position now. We're towards the higher amount. But like I say, if we don't increase the sewer rates, that's going to continue to deteriorate, and we'll be down in actually probably subpar over a couple of years. So what I thought we could do is in Exhibit D, there's a sample fund balance policy that would be adopted by the Sewer Commission, and that would guide future boards on how they should be sizing their fund balances, why we're carrying the fund balances we are, and kind of memorializing and giving a common understanding of what those fund balance levels will be maintained at. That's kind of the gist of what I wanted to stress is, first of all, I am concerned about deteriorating fund balances, and it is a trend that's not going away. Secondly, having adequate reserves and then looking at them at budget time each year would tend to say, when do we need rate increases, where are we okay, what's going on annually. And then looking at the fund balance level, and like I say, there are some years where you may want to do some planned draws against that fund balance, but also in the back of the board's mind, they'll want to have an idea of how they can bring that back up again too. If it's used, how do you get it back up? And that could be over a number of years. It doesn't have to be overnight.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
Questions?
So the sample fund balance policy that we have in front of us, is that something that we'd look to do prior to any rate increases?
I think I would do that because it would help when you have the public hearing. It helps explain. I mean, some people may say, well, look at all the money you got. But I think that this was adopted, and we stressed that we had to do this because, and one of the drivers on this is that very uneven cash flow throughout the year. You wouldn't have enough money to operate some months if we didn't do that. So that's what I would recommend, is that have the fund balance policy adopted, kind of explain that as part of the public hearing, and to reinforce the need for the rate increase.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I know you're just getting your legs.
Did you get all that, Colleen?
Yeah, there'll be a quiz at the end.
So I just want to just touch on that.
Yeah, so one of the things, Jeff, and I know that you worked with Dan Stone, you know, we were looking at a rate increase back in 2019.
19, I think.
Yeah, 2019. Yep.
And then COVID hit, so we kind of set it aside. And then we were going to do it again. We were gonna bring it back and start talking about doing a rate increase. And that was right when the town was doing, working on District 4 and, okay, and we were asked, what is doing that? What changed all of a sudden?
I don't know, I'm sorry. In the back, sir, did you just start using your phone? Did you just, when we heard the noise, I looked up and saw you.
I've been on it the whole time.
Very good, okay.
I don't-
No, that's fine. I just wanted to be sure.
All right.
Sorry about
Okay,
that.
sorry.
Then we were asked to hold off because, James, you guys were doing something with District 4. I think it was your public hearings or
Yes.
something, so we held off on the rate increase. And we haven't, unfortunately, haven't revisited it, and now we're in a position where we're in a pretty, tight situation.
Yeah.
In fact, right now, we are almost $80,000 in the rears, with payments, and the majority of that actually is coming from the town, from the grant.
46,000.
46, so a little more than half of the amount that we're out. So, you know, and as we discussed last month, we're not in a good financial situation in trying to manage our O&M. So I'm not sure how, and sorry, I know you're both new to sitting here too. I don't know how many steps are needed to even start this rate change, you know, putting it all together. So I guess my first thought is, okay, we need to do a rate increase. My concern is that our users have not seen a rate increase in, I don't know when the last one was, to be honest. So it's been a long time, and I don't know. I certainly want to be fair to everyone and not hit them with a huge whammy when people's budgets are, you know, we have to respect everybody's budget and trying to absorb the costs of everything these days, but we definitely need to make a step. And so I guess the way I'm looking at it as Jeff and Dan Stone worked on the rate increase that we had floated out there in 2019. They'd put a lot of time into figuring out that rate increase. I think my thought or my suggestion would be to move forward with that proposal, even though it's old, it's still a rate increase for us, so that then probably in the near future, we would be looking at another one, but not to step way out there with a huge rate increase.
Do this one for 2025 and then 2026. Have a more realistic.
Or push it to 27 if we can, you know, to give people a little time to absorb and prepare. Like, we can start saying, okay, this is the one to go out for 2025. We'll be looking to do another one in 2027, so that maybe people can put their, put their budget hat on and say, okay, you know, I took this hit in 2025, but I know I'm gonna be looking at a similar one now coming at me in 2027. I think that's fairer than coming up with a huge number now and really kinda.
Yeah, ultimately, I'd like to see it get to a point where each year there's an increase, but a very minimal.
Right.
You know?
But I think it's gonna take us a little bit to
Yeah.
get there, that's the problem, because we're so
Far
behind. But I don't know what's involved to get us there, because we never got there. I know we did a lot of public presentations,
We did have a public
we did have a public hearing, so I know we have to do all of that again. But then from there, I don't know how quickly it moves along. So I guess I would be needing guidance on how timing and how
Yeah.
all that will work.
So, I think that is the normal process we gotta go to all the way up until there's a final resolution, and then it's gonna get applied to the following fiscal, right, the following fiscal year.
Yeah, I think timing wise, it's gonna take us to that point, right?
Right, exactly.
I mean, we're here September, we now need to, as Jeff was suggesting, we need to pass that fund balance policy, so that would be our October meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would then wanna move into, and Jeff and the rest of us have to blow the dust off of that 2019 plan and presentation, to see where we're at with that.
Correct, so what you're gonna wanna get, when do you start your budget process?
Now,
Yeah, that's gonna be a tight timeline.
I know that Dan met with the large users with the methodology that we had developed, and I think he got a fairly good reception that what we came up with the base, and was kind of equitable, and what we did see was a shift in the cost from the individual residential user. There was a bigger cost put on the large users. So in some cases, the rate increase to the individuals was not going to be that significant, and we were concerned about the impacts on, some of the larger users. But I think the way that we came up with a methodology was recognizing that they use quite a bit more and are putting the wastewater treatment plant had to be designed in order to handle that capacity that they're delivering to them. I think they understood it from the feedback I got from Dan, that they didn't like it, but I think they understood it. And that's one of the things we have to do for a rate schedule. It's got to be understandable, it's got to be fairly simple to administer, and it's got to be equitable.
so.
And that was the goal.
The problem, Jeff, that if I'm to understand this correctly, the problem is that was all put together to be used with a new IMA. Because currently our rates are embedded, is the best terminology I think I can come up with. They are embedded in our current IMA. And it is based on a different formula than what you and Dan put together. That was gonna be our new way of doing things with a new IMA, and having the rate situation be an amendment or an addendum to the IMA, so that you didn't have to reopen the IMA every time you wanted to change the rates. So we never got to that point of getting that new IMA, so now I'm not really sure.
I would love to see that happen, but I'm not
Not
confident that's gonna occur.
So,
Christine will have to limp along with this convoluted billing system you have then.
great,
That's a good way to put it.
yep, that's the perfect way of
Because
putting
what we're
it.
worried about is if we're going to ask the public for an increase, and someone says, well, what's the formula? I can't explain it.
We can't.
Not the current one.
And the problem is, what we were trying to move away from was the current rate structure or formula incorporates assessment, and since assessment isn't updated or accurate, we wanted to get away from using assessment, so there's the rub there. So I'm,
your equalization rates are so low that it's really saying that they've almost lost reality of what real values are.
right,
Many of the communities more upstate, their assessed values are at 100%. So they, every 2 years, the assessors come out, depending on what they're seeing in the market, they actually will come out with a new assessment based on comparable sales, what's happening in the community in that. But you guys are so far behind that that's a real Achilles heel in the rate schedule, because
Right,
he just God only knows what the
Right.
real values are.
right, so that's why we wanted to move away from that, that's why
Yep.
the formula that Dan and you came up with is what we wanted to move forward with, but without a new IMA, I don't think we can move forward with that, so now I'm not quite sure how we navigate this, so, I think we need to do some homework and circle back on this, but maybe in the meantime, if we can take a look at his fund balance policy and see if we can move forward with at least that part of things. So at least we've gotten that out of the way while we have some time to do the homework on how we move forward with a rate increase. And none of us will be able to explain to you how that formula works.
Right.
I can tell you that.
It almost seems as if we have maybe three options. One, keeping the old rate formula and doing an increase, which
Right.
requires, does it require an amendment to the IMA?
Probably, because it's embedded in the
It's
IMA,
embedded in the
so that
IMA.
means you gotta open the IMA up and do
Yeah.
another, that's why we have so many
I know,
amendments to it, is
I know.
because every time you look at it, it creates
So
another
my
amendment.
thought is if we're gonna do an addendum to the IMA to do a rate increase with
That's-
the old formula, I would say, let's just use the new formula, get that passed, and do that as an addendum.
I don't know if we can do that.
Well, I think what you're gonna need to do is, right, is just amend the IMA that sort of vacates the old formula
Vacates that one and
entirely.
adopts the new one?
And it either adopts a new one, or perhaps maybe if we wanna get creative, we allow the IMA to, not tie you to any particular formula going forward, but rather it's something that you do as a budgetary process year to year.
That would make more sense.
Yeah,
So this way you're not going back to amend the IMA each and every time.
yeah,
Well, I think that was the philosophy of
yeah.
a new IMA with the new rate structure, that it was
Yeah, but
supposed.
that was still tying it to the IMA, it was an addendum, what he's saying is make it part of the budget process, the rate changing, so that we
Okay.
could get away from the IMA altogether with the rate changes. Make that completely separate from any IMA.
And we just go with the rate change that they talked about in 2019, I remember the difficult part for all of us was when Dan gave that presentation, like none of us could understand where these rates were coming, what the numbers were, how he calculated them. And
Well,
that was the hardest thing to understand, was like, this thing is so, we gave this big, great presentation, but the only one that understood it was Dan Stone. Right, none of us were like, what is going on?
Well, I think if we were to look at it now, we'd probably have a better handle on it, now that we know our finances.
Yeah.
And it was basically based on if you're
Yeah,
putting 0 to 50 gallons into the treatment plant,
Right.
you're a single family, you're paying this.
yeah, I think it
Two
was pretty.
family, you're paying this, 3 family, multifamily,
So we're
Yeah.
business.
trying to do a hit, like this
It's
year,
the
and then
old
next
one
year,
that
like
none of
just
us could follow.
do it like 3 steps? Is that basically what we were trying to do, like 3 years in a row to get to where it has to be? Would that cover it? If it was
I don't know, until we can look at the numbers, but I don't know if we feel comfortable hitting somebody 3 years in a row, or
Yeah.
taking every other year until we get to that, and then do a little step every year. We're so deep that I don't want it to be too much of a hardship on everybody to get them up there, so I'd rather take a little bit longer to get there, and then do little steps each year kind of thing.
And I believe that the Dan Stone's presentation with the new rate structure is,
We have all of it,
And I'm
it's
saying-
just blowing the dust off of it.
right, but I mean, we have it on our website, right?
Yes, yep,
So it's still there if anyone wanted to
Yeah,
refresh
that
their
was,
memories and
that
look
was
at it.
not presented in 2019, that was presented in 21.
21,
Yeah.
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 okay.
The other thing is, I'm so anxious to get this accounting system accurate. I think I can see where we might be able to transfer some over to replenish some fund balance out of that capital fund. Combine a lot of checking accounts, and so we can get more money invested and bring up our interest earnings too. So that's why I'm so anxious to get this new accounting up, and so I can understand what's really going on. Because there's like 8 different checking accounts right now, and I think all we need is maybe 2 or 3. And seeing 5% rates of return. So that'll help too. I mean, I don't want, we need the rate increase in some shape or form to get us on track. But we'll work like, so that maybe it will be a rate increase, and then in 2 years we'll do a small increase, and then maybe 2 years we'll do another smaller to get us where we gotta be. The other thing I wanted to talk with you guys about is when the wastewater treatment plant was constructed, the feeling was that there would be growth on the system. And as I understand it, Castaigne did a phase, are they on it? Yeah,
They're-
phase 2?
Phase 2 is about to hit
It's
us.
sealed. It is.
We're doing the dedication tonight, so, that's coming on. So is the ASPCA, that's about to come on as well. And then, Route 22 South, I don't know how far out that is now, a couple years probably.
Yeah, probably a couple.
But that's in the works, we're committed to that project, so that will be coming in short order.
Right, the more,
So,
Yeah, Castagna's on, they're all CO'd, they have people moving in there already.
in the woods.
Yeah, in the woods.
Ocean.
And then there's a phase 3 still of Castagna?
I think there's 3 more phases
Oh.
in their approval, but nothing like submitted, nothing's even,
yeah,
there's been no
Yeah, but-
conversation or anything like that.
if we can delay, let's say, we get the one done, we get a smaller one, in a couple of years, and then by that time, maybe there will be continued growth. There was one other thing I wanted to bring up is the village a climate smart community?
No.
Okay, there is a heck of a lot of money that's going to be coming down the pipe for climate smart communities. And I'm thinking about the wastewater treatment plant operation side in the budget, savings, especially in electric. If there's a potential for solar, to help offset some of those electric costs, and other climate smart initiatives. Has the village gone to LED lighting or anything like that yet?
Well, we looked at solar, that didn't work for us. We didn't have the space for any of that. That was looked into.
Could we buy land?
Could be.
Solar doesn't really have to be on the same site, or it could be installed on roofs.
Yeah, we looked into all of that and it wasn't gonna work. We looked at the sewer treatment plan and stuff. We can't put it on the roof here.
We talked about putting it on the treatment plant roofs.
I know, but
And
that, it wasn't enough. It wasn't big
Wasn't
enough
enough
on the
to-
property or on the roof, so that wasn't gonna work. We did look into
Is
it.
there any vacant lands available that are owned by, that are not used?
That are owned by the village?
Either the village, the town, or maybe even the county where we could enter into IMAs and,
How about we utilize Lakeside or the rooftops at Lakeside? What's that, is that a quarter mile, Jerry, from the sewer treatment plant maybe?
About a quarter, yeah.
I mean, it's
There's
just
a
a
lot of
thought,
power
but
there.
in most of our wastewater treatment plants, they're the largest electric users.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is true.
And you guys are getting clobbered down there.
Yeah.
More than other areas of the state. And we are seeing that solar's working, like we say, if you've got vacant land that's not being utilized, I don't know, I know the school wouldn't, but in some of our cases, we have schools that have a lot of land that they're never gonna use. We have one that was 40 acres. But if we looked at potential sites, or even if we had to buy, it's probably expensive, but it doesn't have to be good land. It can be put on, can't be wetlands, but it can be put on.
Great swamp,
farmland.
got the great swamp all around it.
Hey, let's not forget about our endangered
No,
species
okay,
here.
it's not happening.
Yeah,
We could
we
live
don't
at
wanna get
Lakeside
into the
for a lot of
turtles
years.
and if they get sunburned or
worthwhile.
whatever, but,
Close enough.
but maybe if we were a climate smart community and having, like NYSERDA would come in and do some of this stuff at no cost and really just look outside the box. It sounds like we gotta look outside the box
Yeah.
for available sites, but there could maybe be other potential energy saving improvements or, especially if, equipment has to be replaced.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
All right, well, we can-
Those are all things that we could look at, and after we do this initial rate increase, we can look at ways of diminishing the ones that come later.
Okay. All right, well, we can start looking into these things and working on that as we move forward with the other steps.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any other questions for Jeff?
The only question I have is for the fund balance policy, is that something that we'd have to have a public hearing on, or would that just be a resolution?
No, that could be by board action.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it would still, it requires a resolution. You're saying they don't need to have a public hearing on setting the policy pertaining to how the rates, in other words, how the rates get changed? Is that
No,
what
no,
you're saying?
just the fund
Just the
balance
fund balance.
policy. He's just saying by resolution.
That's correct. Sorry, I misunderstood.
So I was just thinking timeline, so we could get that.
Yeah, so we can move forward with that part, so we at least have that done while we do the homework on figuring out the rate situation.
Great.
All right, so for our next meeting, we will look at that fund balance policy and see about a resolution, so we can do that for October. All right, any other questions for Jeff?
Good.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Appreciate
Sure
it.
thing, guys.
We'll be in touch.
Bye now.
Thanks, have a good night.
Advance.
So now we have the resolution for dedication of the woods. Do you guys have that?
I didn't put it down now, it's like never giving me a chance copies
Yeah.
before, I'm gonna give it to them.
Somebody,
Yeah.
Here,
Yeah.
we can do that. Sorry. I didn't. I just sent it to you, they were the ones that created it.
is it?
Wait, this?
No,
And
this
then
is, this is one.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking for that one.
Yeah, here we go.
Oh, is it two?
They're
Here.
both 58.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. As long as it, one of them has it.
Do you wanna move on? I think, give that time to read that?
Oh, we
Did you
can,
give them this?
I need both.
You need both?
Well, I took one from Steve and one from Colleen, so
You can
now
have
we
these
have
two.
this
Here's the
one.
resolution and the dedication.
There we go, we put these two together.
Sorry.
We got another set. Sorry. We'll be better at this next time. Okay.
Do we wanna move to the
Yeah,
next
why
item?
don't we give them a minute to be able to peruse that? So we'll move on to reference number 62.24, which is a request from for a sewer adjustment, customer 10386, in the amount of $1,232.94. Water pressure valve exploded while customer was away. Water did not enter the sewer system.
Yeah, we never entered the sewer system, I have no problem, I'll make the motion to waive the fee.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
No, that's what
All
we've
in
done.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Steve.
I said it's what we've done
Yeah,
in the past, so
Yep.
why not?
2 seconds, I'm sorry.
James. Okay, I got myself all discombobulated. Okay, that. All right. That's that, okay. So we'll keep moving along and we'll circle back on the woods.
Okay.
All right, so moving on to discussions, the income survey submitted to EFC. That was a long, drawn out,
I don't have any.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, I'm looking.
No, there's nothing there.
They,
All right,
they have it all.
so
They
I
have it.
wish I had thought to ask Jeff before he hung up. Did we hear back from the EFC? They haven't made any decision because they just received it, correct?
Yeah.
So we're waiting, this is for our trunk line replacement. We had to do the income survey and get that to the EFC so that, and it's our understanding that it looked good for us. So now we're just waiting for EFC to get back to us, as to whether or not we then qualify for 0% financing to move forward. This is where we got $1 million from the WIA grant, but the project is a little over 2 mil,
Okay, I got
so we would need that additional financing in order to move forward with replacing the trunk line, which is going under the tracks. It has the bellies in it. So, does anybody have any questions regarding that? Okay. Sewer rate increase, we've already discussed that, so I think we can move on unless somebody else has anything else on that. Okay. So now, Brian, are you still with us?
I am here.
Okay. So now, Starkdale is up. Starkdale has requested, capacity at our sewer plant. Did you wanna come up?
Sure.
He's here if you want as well. I mean, I think most of us have all seen the presentation and have an understanding of the project at this point. So it's really just to discuss, your sewer, request.
Great. So the sewer request, really quick.
Brian, can you hear?
It's a little quiet, but I think I can hear him.
Okay.
John Watson, Site Engineering, Surveying and Landscape Architecture, out of Carmel. We're the site civil engineer for the project. Really quick overview, 650-acre property up in the northwestern corner of the town of Pawling. It actually straddles both the town of Pawling and the town of Dover. The town line goes right through the center of the property here. This is on West Dover Road. For reference, this is the Dover Oak down here, Appalachian Trail up here, and this is the farmland that's here is currently farmed by the Dykeman family. What the proposal is a combination project of resort, multifamily residential, single-family residential, and a very, very small commercial little village area with some common space for people who live here to come and work. So it's meant for people to live here, but if they need like a conference room or something bigger, they can have, be down in this little village area here. Also looking to have a sports and entertainment complex in the center of the property. And it is spread out, but it is different. There's different neighborhoods of the project, so there's going to be different flavors throughout the whole project. Then we have two options for sewer. One is an on-site sewer treatment plant, and then we would just discharge to the on-site pond on the property, and the stream that discharges to the north. The other option would be to connect to your district. So we are looking for that. So just to give you some scale, this is the property, this is the town line. Here's West Dover Road. You've got Lakeside Park down here. Here's Corbin. River Road's up here, 22, Trinity Pawling, and the plant is down here. So the distance is not so far that it's unreasonable to think that we could run pipe down and connect if you're interested. So what we're looking to do is, we have the application both towns, we need approvals from both towns, obviously, since we have development in both towns. And we have submitted an initial water and wastewater flow summary showing the expected uses for the project. So based on the health department requirements, we have to use average day flows that are provided by the DEC. And our average day flow for the total project would be 270,000 gallons a day. But in reality, due to not the whole property is not going to be fully occupied all the time. So, and also the flows that you would get from the DEC manual are often conservative for design purposes. So we estimate that the actual flows would be in the neighborhood of 130,000 gallons a day.
That's a big,
That's
That's
huge,
big.
yeah.
So out of those 100 houses, those are not expected to be primary residences for people. So, out of those 100 houses, you're not gonna have full occupancy. So between the factors being, or the flows being conservatively large for design purposes and the fact that you're not gonna have full occupancy, we really expect to be around the 130,000 gallon a day range. For average monthly flow, which is what the plan is measured by.
So, if that line to get to the plant would come down Westover Road, I assume, correct?
It would come Westover Road and then connect to wherever the best place to connect to.
So then, wouldn't everyone along Westover Road have the right to that line also, so we have to know?
That's up to you. I was involved with, in the next town downtown Patterson.
Right.
There was, when the Powson Hamlet plant expanded, they included additional areas, then they ran a sewer force main up to the shopping center where Tops is now, and then we ran another force main up to Thunder Ridge. And then the mobile gas station on the corner, their septic was failing, so I connected them into, so like, some people jump in and some people have septics and they don't need to or want to. So that's something that's up to you to decide if you want to
Well,
or have to.
Differences too, New York City watershed, there's a major issue with any septics there. You don't have that issue
Right.
up in this area.
I guess my concern would be, if you ran a sewer line past all those houses on Westover Road, how would you tell those people they don't have a right to hook up to it? But if they did hook up to it, that 130,000 gallons a day goes back to 270 pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
Now everyone.
Goes more.
Well-
Right? Or more, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying if you, we'd have to have an idea of what everyone along Westover Road, if they said, and why wouldn't they say, I want to get on the sewer, it's in front of my property. So we have to know
Sure.
what that count for use could
Well,
actually be too.
The other, so I met with Eric, I believe Eric
Yes.
was there, you were
Yeah.
on the phone, I believe,
Yep,
John?
on the phone, yeah.
It was explained that a majority of the sewers in the town of Dover is not part of our IMA. So that's one of the issues, and I also explained that we have a very serious INI issue that is making us exceed our speedies permit during large rain events, so, and we don't have a handle on it yet. So at this point, with that, and we also now, as we had pointed out earlier in the meeting, we have Castagna with more phases coming, we're committed to that project. We have Route 22 South, we have ASPCA, then we have all the other areas within the village and the town that we designed the new plant for being able to get sewer into the areas that it already is not. So my concern would be is we're already maxing out the best I can figure, but that's up to our engineer. Brian Suazo is our engineer from Cedarwood.
Okay.
He's on the phone,
Okay.
so,
Yeah, hey guys.
sorry, Brian,
No, that's okay.
you wanna,
I was looking at this too. You guys kind of said a lot of things. It's always attractive to have a potential project, but
Shane's back.
like Lori said, I took the DMR, the discharge mining reports and the facility operations sheets from the wastewater treatment plant. I just did I did 2022, 2023, and 2024 up until the end of July, and your average daily flow is reasonable, but your max month, which is your speedies permit flow rate, your 30-day max, then your peak day, your peak days are all above 1 million. Then there's one that's for 2023 had a day that was almost 2 million. But if you take your max monthly flow, which is like I said, your speedies permit flow, you add the additional plan stuff, and that's just the initial plan stuff with Castagna, Route 22 South, and obviously the SPCA hooking in. That brings you close. And if this, and I know the DEC criteria numbers are typically conservative. When you use I think it's table D4 in the intermediate design standards. Those numbers are high, right? And they're DEC says these are kind of permit flows, 30-day max flows, but they're really peak day in my opinion. So I did do, I think Eric said they're 50%. I did 60%, based on the 270,000, so which is 162,000 at full build out. But that puts you over your speedies, or right on it. And it's just, there's just no wiggle room at all.
So that
Yeah.
completes us, and that doesn't even allow us to do any expansions and stuff either, so.
And we have village residents that
Right,
have,
so,
that still are not on the sewer.
Right. We had done a few years ago, the sewer district within the village was a smaller area, and a few years ago, we expanded it to the entire boundary of the village, so that when and if we found funding, we could get more sewer pipes in the ground for the village. So we still have those areas that we wanna get onto the plant, so. So at this point, we wouldn't be able to take on this project. It's probably gonna be a few years out until we can get a handle on this I&I, cause we've been working on it now for a couple of years, and, we haven't, resolved it yet. It's a serious situation, which costs us quite a bit of money to have somebody then manually operating the plant during rain events. So that's not helping our financial situation either, so, so, I don't know if there's any other questions, or,
No, pretty clear.
yeah, sorry.
Sorry,
Thank you.
Okay.
thanks for your time.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, John. All right. Yeah, we need to go back, so, I don't know, I know you're under pressure over there to kind of take a look at that
It-
dedication resolution.
I looked at the resolution and I looked at the offer of dedication. I mean, it looks to be in order as far as I'm concerned.
It what?
It looks to be in order as far as
Okay.
I'm concerned, so I don't see any issues with it.
Okay. All right, I don't have one in front of me. So we'll do,
Is, Brian, you're still on, right?
Yeah, I'm here.
So we're discussing the dedication of the woods.
Okay.
phase 2 of
Phase-
Castagna, or
phase two?
D, whatever it's called.
Yep.
So I just, we're not responsible for any of the above-ground property, we're just responsible for the septic and the lines, correct?
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be the septic tanks
Mm-hmm.
and the pipes taking from the tanks and going out to our pump house that's out on the end of the liquids. Yes,
Right.
sorry, liquids, yes.
Yep.
Yep. So then we're also responsible for pumping out the solids. I don't know if we've determined when, how often that I guess still has to be, I don't know if that's in the plans, Brian, and I'm sorry, Brian, I know you're getting up to speed, this was.
No, it's okay. There is a spec in DEC intermediate design for checking solids. If it's not, I have a hard time believing. I just don't remember looking at the plans or if it's in there in the notes. There's probably, I assume the DOH one, the notes on the plans itself. But if it's not, it's easy to follow. There is a certain threshold for sludge on the bottom when you're supposed to pump it. So.
Okay, all right.
All right.
So, anybody have any other questions regarding this? All right, so, the resolution, now therefore it be resolved that the Pawling Joint Sewer Commission hereby accepts the offer of dedication, and the commission is authorized to take such actions as may be required to effectuate same. The question of the foregoing resolution was duly put to a vote, planning board vote. That's throwing me. Why does it say planning board vote?
Oh, that must be a typo,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
okay. All right, so.
Was that that's in the resolution?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right after now
Oh,
therefore
there it
be
is, the bottom.
resolved.
Yeah. I guess I should have looked at that line too.
All right, so if we want to do a roll call of the vote. Sorry, give you that back. Thank you. Chair Lori Taylor? What is going on with that?
what?
Aye.
That was an aye. Yes, aye.
I'm not
I know you didn't
moving. I didn't move, I'm not touching anything here.
Nope.
Commissioner Berwiger,
Aye.
Commissioner Vazella,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schmidt,
Aye.
Commissioner Guzzo,
Aye.
and Commissioner Locascio.
Aye.
Do we need to amend that to correct the planning board statement? And if so, if we're going to amend it, we need to now that the town has made the appointments to the commission, we are missing the second seat vote on that resolution. That's right. So, we should probably
You could probably still still vote on it, right? 'Cause
Yeah, we could vote on it and
Colleen
just,
approved as
yeah,
as the alternate, so she can vote tonight.
yeah. I do know that. I'm sorry?
Do I vote?
When you're the alternate sitting in the chair, you
Yes.
vote.
Okay.
But I mean, you couldn't vote on a lot tonight because you
Correct.
weren't at those meetings, but this you could, this is
Okay.
new.
Okay, so shall I ask?
Yes, ask
Alternate.
Councilman, or
Council-
alternate,
Yeah, alternate.
Councilwoman
Snow.
Snow.
Aye.
Thank
All
you.
good.
All right. And then do we have to, that's it?
That's
Or
it, you
is-
made you made the correction before you voted, right?
Yes.
So you're fine.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay. All good on that? Okay. All right, so that's done. All right, James or Brian, is there any other updates on the woods? Or the ASPCA?
Careful with that mic.
I know, I'm like,
On the woods, all we know is that we did issue their COs and people are moving in there. I don't know how many are rented, maybe I'll talk to Everett, see if I can update if they know how many are in there so far.
okay.
I just know there was, I think he told me last week that there was 4 units, I thought he told me was moving in this week.
4 buildings.
4, well, no, like 4
4
units.
units.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, but I'll get an update from Everett, I know he was speaking to them directly on how many were
Because
coming
woods
in
is
there.
5 buildings, correct?
5 buildings, yeah, for a total of like 80 units maybe in total.
In
Yeah.
total?
Yeah.
Okay.
They did a tour with the fire department to go through them all, to see them all, and, but we'll get an update as, I don't know how quickly they're moving in, we did reach out to try and get an idea also, to try and help get information over to the school, but, we haven't heard back from anyone as far as how many are rented, or how quickly they'll be in there.
Okay.
And- No, go ahead.
Brian, did you have anything else on the woods?
I was just gonna, I couldn't hear that super clear, you guys, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
They're issuing COs, like, what, a week or 2 you said or something, or obviously close, but?
I'm sorry, I couldn't
The
hear you.
COs.
COs
Have-
when they were issued?
They were issued this past week, last
Oh,
week.
they're issued, okay,
Yes,
they're issued.
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep, while we're on the woods, there's another phase?
There's multiple phases approved on that project. There's still a huge commercial part of that project approved, but they haven't come back to us with, I don't think they have any current users for any more of the space there right now. There's been no applications in front of the town. The rest of it's approved. I believe off the top of my head, there's around another 140 or 160 senior units that's already been approved in that project. But there's been no timeline on when they're gonna build them.
Yeah, right,
They kind of wait on funding, whenever the state puts funding up, otherwise they just sit on it.
yeah,
There is a big commercial portion as well,
but
but
there's no movement on that.
no, they even have listed for sale, they haven't got any movement on it.
Okay, thank you. ASPCA, Brian, you have anything?
No, just they're gonna, the operators, they were supposed to flush out that pump station, I think it was yesterday, and, something happened with the jet truck or personnel, so they're gonna be doing that Monday morning, so just FYI.
Okay,
Then I'll go back to the final, what our plan's gonna be for that for time in, so, based on how that goes.
okay. James, did you have anything else on that?
No, nothing on the ASPCA.
Okay. All
We're
right.
actually still trying to set up a meeting date to get a lot of us out there, the town board and the village board. But it's been difficult to put together a timeline when they're gonna have proper personnel there. we'd like to have a big group from the HPCA, you know, to walk us through, but it's been hard to nail them down.
Okay. All right, so now we go to the consultants. I'm sorry, I should have introduced you guys both at the very beginning. If you don't mind introducing yourselves and,
I wouldn't mind, but you go first.
Danielle Stroud, Vandewater.
Kyle Barnett, also Vandewater and Vandewater. And while I'm at it, just while you're correcting that resolution, the certification also needs to be corrected too. It says Pawling in the certification, so just that resolution,
in the resolution too?
yeah, 5824. So where you, right above where the where Christine signs it,
Second page.
second page. Somehow it got transposed over there too, so,
Passed by the Village of Pawling Planning Board. Oh, okay,
so,
so that has to be taken out.
just so the record's clear on that.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't have anything else to add, other than
And the
we
date.
are looking forward to working together going forward, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle, and welcome aboard.
Yep. Danielle will be Danielle will be the point person. She's going to be attending the meetings, going forward. We've just also recently hired another associate, Hannah Atkinson, who you'll probably end up meeting at some point in time, because she'll be coming to some of the meetings too, to kind of get her sea legs about her. She'll be assisting in preparation of documents as well, for this board and also, for other village matters. And then obviously I'm always around for any other additional questions or comments or concerns that anybody needs. So we welcome anyone here to always reach out anytime that they need some assistance on anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, did you have anything else?
No, just, we're gonna be doing the last, I guess, round of, data collection for the I&I study, so the weather's so beautiful, I don't wanna hope for rain, but maybe in the next month or so, we just get a couple of good rainstorms just to see what we're dealing with, but that's pretty much it on my end, so.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep. Thank you.
H2O.
Okay, normal day-to-day operations at the plant is
He's
doing
gotta speak
very
You're,
well.
you're gonna have to speak up, Rich.
Excuse me?
You're gonna have to bring the volume up.
Oh, the day-to-day plant operations is going very well, no problems. On the 6th, we had DEC,
Got
on the 6th, we had a DEC inspection. It was unannounced. They had nothing better to do, so they showed up at the plant and did their inspection. I believe you got a copy of the
Thank you, Ben.
report. Everything checked out fine.
So that inspection report that we received, that was an unannounced visit?
Excuse me?
That was an unannounced visit?
Yes. They were just in the area, and I guess, what VJ said was one of their appointments canceled on them, so they just swung in.
So they knocked it.
So, we ran all backup generators at the pump stations under load to test them to make sure they're functioning properly. We still have to get green lawn generator taken care of yet. Met with Brian and an electrical contractor down at the plant on the 30th, talking about removing the VFDs and placing them in another room. Hopefully we can get a quote on that very soon back.
That's huge, because that's a big problem that we have at the plant, that those are located in a wet room.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be huge to move those into the other room and have them in a box that is watertight.
Supposed to be, yeah. And then Brian was talking about the data loggers. I picked up the manhole inserts tonight to install that tomorrow, so we can install the data recorders the week coming up.
Great.
And I think that's about it. I would like to mention is we have a couple generators sitting at the plant. And I know one does work and the other one doesn't work.
Yeah.
It might be worth our while to maybe throw it out there for maybe some bids, 2-for-1 sale. See if we parts to come back, or
Okay.
come in to fix it.
Okay.
This has
It's
been
a while, yeah.
It's been a while.
This was last meeting, right?
And the meeting before, I
It's
think.
in motion.
Yeah, it goes back a long time.
I'll check in with
So
them tomorrow.
we will get a run-in?
They had it running,
Okay.
they're waiting for a circuit board now.
Okay.
And then on another note, winter is coming. We started checking the electric heaters in all the facilities, because over the summer times, the fans usually seize up because they're electric heat. So we're gonna be going through all the buildings, making sure that all the electric is, up to snuff and working properly for this, winter coming up. We wanna catch it now, this way we can get it fixed before it gets cold.
So just to back up, you indicated we have 2 generators that we're not using that we might be able to sell?
They're the old generators that we pulled out of the pump stations. One from Green Lawn, which did run, and the other one, I don't know what pump station that was prior to us taking over. But they're just sitting there,
They're obsolete, no good for parts for us or anything?
for us as the village, just get rid of them. And that's why we pulled them out of the pump
Right.
stations to begin
So
with.
if I could make a mention, we use Auctions International. They actually handle a lot of municipalities, sale on things. They're actually coming down to meet with Jimmy to take a look at our garbage truck. We're about to put that out to auction. So if you want to reach out to Jimmy and find out when he's coming down.
We can do that, but John has also been very successful in finding people to buy this.
Oh, well, no, that's,
If you haven't, you know.
No,
no,
I
no,
think we can-
Auctions International,
no.
they take and cut, and the percentage that you get,
Right.
sometimes it's,
You know, John's pretty good at
Oh, okay.
shopping it around and getting a pretty good
Shop it
price
out,
for
John.
things.
How much you want for them, John?
I don't know, a lot.
Oh,
You sold the cattle generator.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that was a big one, yeah.
yeah.
And again, I'd like to invite you guys down anytime, swing in, take a look around.
Yeah, we still need to get a couple of you out
yeah, I
there.
wanna see it.
So,
Go take a look at the sewage treatment plant in your free time.
Yeah, right.
So much fun.
Exciting
These
day.
nice
Have
September
lunch.
days.
I wanna wait for winter.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're waiting for August to get over.
Yeah,
our
right.
sticky
Yeah, yeah.
humid days.
All right, so is there anything else before we adjourn?
Yeah. No, I'll give you, well, I'd like to thank the town for doing the appointments.
Yes.
And,
Sure.
The
The
budget's,
only problem is you guys didn't pass the budget.
so, the budget will be on in October. We were waiting for our other councilwoman to be back. Because we originally anticipated she would be here for last night's meeting, and then her graduation from the FBI Academy she was in, it was a day later than she anticipated. So originally she was supposed to be back for yesterday's
I
meeting,
see,
so it will be on for the October meeting, so it's
okay,
not.
all
yeah.
right, because we need.
Yeah, I spoke with Nancy, I spoke with Nancy about it. I know she was gonna reach out and let everyone know that it'll be on for the October, first meeting in October.
All right, well, with nothing else, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Let me turn off.
Yeah, let's